Hare Krishna. Three aspects of the absolute truth. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Radha Nila Madhava Radha Nila Madhava Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Hare Krishna. So thank you very much, dear devotees, for kindly being present here. My special thanks to the devotees who are kindly managing and organizing these various talks in the evening. Thank you, Damodar Prasad Prabhu. And Narottama, what was Prabhuji's name? Nama? Nama Vrata Prabhu. And thank you, Dhananjay Prabhu, for kindly managing the presentations very well. Dear devotees, today's topic is 3 aspects of the one absolute truth. And we'll be focusing on Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse number 11. But we will follow our Shishta Parampara, our tradition established by the previous great Acharyas to perform Mangalacharan. Most of us already know what the verses are. You can kindly sing along with me. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruh Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nidhi Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Paramami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. So dear devotees, we'll have a look at the verse Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse number 11. This is considered to be one of the most important verses as far as the understanding of Bhagavan is concerned. We have seen what is bhakti in the definition of bhakti. Then it is also important to understand who is Bhagavan. So we will try to see today who is Bhagavan and what are the various aspects of the one absolute truth. So this verse is Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse number 11. I will recite this verse. Kindly sing after me. Vadanti tat tattvavidas statvam yajnanam advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. So very simple. Externally it sounds very simple, but there is a deep meaning hidden behind it. Today we will try to see the explanation of the verse from the point of view given by Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. So This verse occurs in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1 to 11. Now we should understand that whatever is written in Srimad-Bhagavatam is actually Samadhi Bhashya. What is it? Samadhi Bhashya. What is the meaning of Samadhi Bhashya? Samadhi Bhashya means Sri Vyasadeva saw all of this in his Samadhi and then he has composed all of it. Sri Vyasadeva was dissatisfied, aparitushya. He was dissatisfied with composing 17 Puranas, and his dissatisfaction was understood by his Guru, Sri Narad Muni, and Sri Narad Muni told him, the only reason for this dissatisfaction is because you have not clearly described the glories of Bhagavan. So this is perhaps the first verse in which the detailed exposition of Bhagavat Tattva or the truth related to Bhagavan is mentioned. Because many times we are asked, who is Krishna? And we give a very simple answer. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of, and what is the meaning of Supreme Personality of Godhead? That means he is Bhagavan. So describe something about Bhagavan. So then it becomes slightly difficult for us to describe exactly who is Bhagavan. So in that, Sri Jiva Goswami comes and helps us out by explaining this wonderful verse. So first and foremost, Vadanti. Vadanti means they describe. Who describes? Tattva Vidas. Those who are learned in the Tattva. Okay, what does Tattva mean? Tattva roughly translates to the absolute truth. There is a rough translation of Tattva is the absolute truth. What is the meaning of the term Tattva? That we have to understand. For example, I will speak an English word. Somebody please give me the Sanskrit word for it. Okay, if I say that English term white, the color white, what is the Sanskrit equivalent for white? Shweta. And if I want to say whiteness, Shvetatva. I hope you are able to understand. Huh? Shvetatva, whiteness. What is the Sanskrit term for black? Krishna. So, how will we say blackness? Krishnatva. So, according to Panini's Sutra, Tasya Bhavastvatalao, we add the suffix tva. So, suppose we have to say reddish, rakta. And reddishness will become what? Raktatva. I hope you are able to understand. So, whenever we have to describe the property of being something, whiteness, blackness, redness, okay. So, then we add the suffix tva. When we say the absolute truth, we call absolute truth as, please pay attention, we call the absolute truth as tat. What do we call the absolute truth as? Tat. Tat tvam asi. Tat means that. That which is beyond this world is called tat. If that is tat, then what will be thatness? Tattva. I hope you are able to understand. So that is the meaning of the term tattva. Absoluteness. So tat means absolute. Tattva, absoluteness. So vadanti tat tattva vidas. Those who are knowers of tattva, they say, what do they say? Tattvam. They explain tattva. And how do they explain tattva? As advaya jnana, jnanam advayam. They explain that tattva is non-dual knowledge. What does it mean? It means that the absolute truth is one without a second. which means the absolute truth is only how much? One. Can there be two absolute truths? But the immediate next line seems to contradict the first two lines, because the immediate next line gives three names to that one absolute truth. If the absolute truth is Advaya, Advaya means which has no second, which means absolute truth is how many? One. Then the immediate next line says Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. So it gets three names: Brahma iti, Paramatma iti, Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. So isn't the second next set of lines contradicting the first two lines? First you call it Advaya, it has no second. Then you immediately give it three names: Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. How is it so? So Srila Jiva Goswami explains the entire secret behind it. First let's note the three names. First name is Brahma, second name is Paramatma, original name is Paramatman. Paramatman becomes Paramatma. And the third name is Bhagavan. So Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Now, if the absolute truth is one, how does it become three? So Srila Jiva Goswami explains in the Bhagavad Sandarbha. At the very beginning of the Bhagavad Sandarbha, Sri Jiva Goswami explains. He says, see, first and foremost, Srila Jiva Goswami has written 6 Sandarbhas. How many Sandarbhas has he written? 6. Does anybody know what are the names of the 6 Sandarbhas written by Srila Jiva Goswami? Krishna Sandarbha, okay, is one of them. Priti Sandarbha is another one of them. First Sandarbha is which Sandarbha? Tattva Sandarbha. Okay. Second Sandarbha is which Sandarbha? Bhagavat Sandarbha. Third Sandarbha is which one? Paramatma, not Paramatma, Paramatma Sandarbha. Fourth is which one? Krishna Sandarbha. Fifth is Bhakti Sandarbha. And final sixth is Priti Sandarbha. So, the first Sandarbha that Sri Jiva Goswami wrote is Tattva Sandarbha. What is Tattva Sandarbha? First and foremost, understand that you have to come to the point of inquiring into Tattva. What is Tattva? Now, once we know what is Tattva, Tattva is Jnanam Advayam. It is one. But immediately, Tattva gets how many names? 3 names. Brahma iti, Paramatma iti, Bhagavan iti. Now what is Brahma? What is Paramatma? Are they 3 different absolute truths, or are they the same absolute truth? Okay. So I would like to invite some answers. I would like to know what is Brahma, what is Paramatma, what is Bhagavan. So would anybody like to say what is Brahma? Impersonal feature. Okay. And what does that mean, impersonal feature? Okay. Yeah. It doesn't have any qualities or so does the absolute truth not have any qualities or form?
It has.
Then why is it that the absolute, like you only said that Brahma has no qualities or form? Does Brahma have a qualities and form?
The universal presence, yes.
In universal presence?
Of the Lord.
Okay.
It's coming from the Lord.
Agreed. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun also saw universal presence. And Arjun said, Sarvatra Pani Padam Te. Everywhere are your hands and feet. So obviously, Arjun did not see impersonal. Arjun saw features. So we have to very clearly understand, if what you said is correct, Brahma doesn't have any features or form. So then, is Brahma the absolute truth? One aspect. Okay. And then, how is it related to the second aspect of truth, Paramatma? What is Paramatma? Yeah, super soul within the heart of everybody is known as what? Paramatma. And then, what is Bhagavan? But that Paramatma also has. Doesn't Paramatma have a form? Doesn't Paramatma have a name? Yes?
Yes.
Paramatma has a name, agreed. Paramatma has a form, agreed. Paramatma has features, agreed. Paramatma is transcendental, agreed. Then why differentiate?
Vigraha.
Huh?
It's not a personal, it's not a vigraha.
Of course it is a vigraha. This is Lord Aniruddha, na? Huh? Within the heart is one of the Vishnu forms. So it is, all the answers are correct. And at the same time, it is important to understand from a very tattva perspective. What exactly is Brahma? What is Paramatma? Who is Bhagavan? So Sri Jiva Goswami says, please hear carefully. Upasak yogyata vaishishyena visheshato nirupayati. Actually, absolute truth is how many? One. See, when the verse began, he said Vadanti. Vadanti means they describe. They describe correctly the absolute truth as how many tattvas? One. But when the second time, Shabdyate, the absolute truth gets named as how many? Three. So absolute truth is correctly described as how many? But the absolute truth gets named as how many? Three. I hope it is understood. Now, the first thing is that what is Brahma, what is Paramatma, what is Bhagavan? Sri Jiva Goswami says, Upasaka yogyata vaishishyena. Please try to understand, not all people in spiritual life are on the same level of qualification. Different people in spiritual life are on different levels of qualification. So, anybody who enters into the spiritual life doesn't immediately become a bhakti yogi. Some people are following different processes for realizing tattva. Everybody, all spiritualists want to realize one thing. What do they want to realize? Tattva. What do they want to realize? Tattva. What is tat? Tat means the absolute truth. Tat, tvam, asi. So tat is the absolute truth. It is called, in Upanishad language, it is called tat padartha. The entity denoted by which term? Tat. That. That means which is beyond the material world. Is called what? Tat. And thatness, tattva. So, all spiritualists, not only bhakti yogis, all spiritualists want to understand only one thing. That thing is known by which name? Tattva. All spiritualists want to understand tattva, but not all of them are on the same level. So, some people understand the absolute truth as Brahma. What is the meaning of this? So, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that first and foremost, actually the absolute truth is only one. Ekam eva akhanda ananda rupam. Actually the absolute truth is only one. Akhanda ananda, form of blissful joy. Okay? And that absolute truth is Bhagavan. Who is the absolute truth? Bhagavan. But there are certain individuals who are practicing their spiritual life in such a way that due to their practice of spiritual life, due to their previous samskaras, They want to perceive the absolute truth. They want to perceive tattva, but they want to perceive tattva without any shakti of the tattva. Please, this is very important to understand. They want to perceive tattva, but without what? Shakti. What is the meaning of shakti? Energy. So the absolute truth is actually always with his energies. But there are certain categories of sadhakas who do not want to perceive the energies, but they simply want to perceive the absolute truth. So absolute truth minus all energies is what they want to perceive. In front of such sadhakas, the absolute truth manifests without any energies. I hope you are able to understand. Because the desire in their heart was the same. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajami aham. So as people surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. So certain people wanted to understand the absolute truth, but they wanted to have nothing to do with any energies of the absolute truth. The absolute truth has how many energies? Can anybody tell me? Okay, unlimited. That's correct. And how many broad categories are his unlimited energies divided into? Antaranga Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti. And there is a in between, Tatastha Shakti. Antaranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti. What is Antaranga Shakti? His intrinsic potency. His spiritual intrinsic potency is known as Antaranga Shakti. What is Tatastha Shakti? The marginal potency consisting of the living entities, which is there at the margin of the spiritual and material world. And what is Bahiranga Shakti? The extrinsic material potency is known as Bahiranga Shakti. All these three Shaktis have their own aspects: Sandhini, Samvit and Hladini. So Bahiranga also has Sandhini, Samvit, Hladini. Antaranga also has Sandhini, Samvit and Hladini. So we will not get into the aspects, but these are three broad categories: Antaranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti. These are the three Shaktis. Now, some sadhakas want to perceive the absolute truth minus Bahiranga Shakti, minus Tatastha Shakti, minus Antaranga Shakti. I hope you are able to understand. So they want to deduct how many energies from the absolute truth? All of them. So they want to see the absolute truth only as one aspect. So please try to understand, why does the absolute truth appear to them in a formless manner? Please try to understand this. Because in this world or in the spiritual world, in any world, form is created by energy. Please try to understand. In any world, form is created by what? Let's say this object. Does this object have a form? Why? Because it is having something. What is it having? Matter. But matter is nothing but what? Material? Energy. The atoms are staying together because of what? Energy. So we are able to perceive the form because there is energy, Shakti. If the Shakti would not be there, would this thing have any form? Without material energy, would this thing have any form? I hope you are able to understand. So every form in the material world is created through Shakti. And every form in the spiritual world is also created through what? Shakti. In the material world also, every form is created through Shakti, In the spiritual world also, every form is created through Shakti. The only difference is, in the material world, the forms are created using Maya Shakti. The spiritual world, spiritual forms are created using Yoga Maya, Antaranga Shakti. Now, if we see Krishna's form, today let's say if Krishna appears in front of us, we see Krishna's form in front of us. Krishna is bent in 3 places. Krishna is holding the flute in his hands. Krishna is wearing pitambar. Krishna is having a sash of bells. Can anybody tell me what is his form made out of? Yes, Antaranga Shakti. And therefore that Antaranga Shakti is known by one name. You might have heard this term, Swarup Shakti. What is the name of that Shakti? What is the meaning of Swarup, dear devotees? In general Hindi or Sanskrit, what is the meaning of Swarup? Form. Original form. Swarup eva Shakti. His original form itself is made out of what? His Shakti. Therefore that Shakti becomes known as which Shakti? Swarup Shakti. So when we perceive Krishna's transcendental form, that actual form is composed out of Swarup Shakti. If a spiritualist doesn't want to perceive Krishna's or any energies, will the Swarup Shakti show him any form? No. So Krishna's form will disappear. And Krishna's form cannot be shown by Maya Shakti, because Krishna's form is material or spiritual? Spiritual. So only Swarup Shakti can show his form. But the transcendentalist doesn't want to perceive any Shakti. So the absolute truth manifests without any energies. See, when we hear something, does it require energy? In hearing something, does it require energy? Yes. Sound waves, are they energy? Yes. In touching something, a material object, does it require material energy? Yes. In tasting something, does it require material energy? Yes. In smelling something, does it require material energy? Yes. In seeing something, does it require material energy? Yes. But if the sadhaka denies all energy, then can the absolute truth appear in a way that can be seen, tasted, touched, smelled? No. Therefore, the absolute truth appears to such sadhakas in a way that cannot be seen, tasted, touched, smelled, or experienced through any of the senses. So does it mean that the absolute truth has changed, or does it mean that the perceiver's vision has changed? What has changed? The perceiver's vision has changed. Therefore, the absolute truth appears in a feature which has no tangible experience. And that feature gets known as what? Brahma. I hope everybody understood what is Brahma. So, simple words. Brahma is Tattva. What is Brahma? Tattva. Minus all energies. Antaranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti. So, Tattva minus all Shaktis equal to what? Brahma. I hope you are able to understand. This is why certain people are able to perceive Tattva as Brahma. We should not say they are able to see, because can Brahma be seen? So the precise term is perceive or experience. Actually, better term is experience. They are only able to experience. Brahma is not Vishay Vastu of any of the senses. It is not experienceable through any of the senses. Brahma doesn't even have a gender attached to it. Is Brahma Pulling or Striling or Napumsakling? Actually, no ling or no gender can be attached to Brahma. So, Brahma is actually, it has no attributes. Because as soon as you attach some ling, some gender to it, it means it has attributes. So we can't attach any gender to it. So therefore it is not known as Saha. What is it not known as? Saha. In Sanskrit, Saha is masculine. Brahma is not known as Sa. Sa is which gender? Feminine. Okay. The closest it gets denoted by is neuter gender, Tat. Because neuter means it doesn't interact with anything. The closest gender which can be ascribed to it is neuter gender, Napumsakling. But actually, eventually, it doesn't even have any linga. But for convention's sake, for denoting it, actually, does it even have the name Brahma? I hope you are able to understand. Does Brahma have the name Brahma? No. Actually, that is a name only for convention. Actually, it has only one name, okay, which is no name. Tat is the shortest name, and some elaborate name is Brahma. I hope you are able to understand. This is the absolute truth perceived without any energies. That becomes known as Brahma. Now, then comes another category of spiritualists who want to perceive the absolute truth. The absolute truth is known as what in the verse? There is only one absolute truth. What is it known as? Tattva. I hope you are able to understand. So, who want to perceive Tattva, but they perceive that Tattva only as the controller of material energy and marginal potency. I hope you are able to understand. Only as the controller of two energies. Which energies? Material, Bahiranga Shakti and Tatastha Shakti. Dear devotees, what is the function of Paramatma in this world? Can anybody tell me?
He is the controller of everything.
He is the
Controller, supreme controller.
And where does Paramatma reside?
Each one's heart, everyone's heart.
In everyone's heart. But that is only one Paramatma. Actually, in this world, there are how many Paramatmas? In this world, there are three Paramatmas. How many Paramatmas are there? Three. Which are the three Paramatmas? First and foremost, the Paramatma of the entire material creation, the overseer of the entire material creation. What is his name? Karanodaka Shai Vishnu. He is the Upadrashta. He is the overseer and Anumanta, and the person who allows the material world, all the material worlds to go on. So that is the first Paramatma of this material creation. He who oversees the entire material creation, that is the first Paramatma. Who is the second Paramatma? Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, the Paramatma of every individual universe, is the second Paramatma, who is the Upadrashta, overseer, and Anumanta, the allower of all activities in this one universe. And the third is Kshirodaka Shai Vishnu, who is the Upadrashta, overseer, and Anumanta of every atomic entity, whether material or spiritual. Material atomic entity is the Paramanu, and spiritual atomic energy is the Jiva. I hope you are able to understand. So, some individuals want to perceive the absolute truth only as the controller of these two. The controller of the Bahiranga Shakti and the controller of which Shakti? Tatastha Shakti. To them, the absolute truth appears in another feature. And which feature is that? Paramatma. I hope you are able to understand. Vishnostu trini rupani purushakyan yatho vidhu ekam tu mahatah srashtra dvitiyam tvanda samsthitam tritiyam sarva bhutastham tani jyatvami vimuchyate. Vishnostu trini rupani. Paramatma has how many features? How many forms? Three. Purushakhyani. They are known as Purushas. Atho vidhu ekam tu mahatah srashtra. The first is the one who created the entire material creation. That is Karanodaka Shai. Dvitiyam tvanda samsthitam. The second is the one who is within every universe. Tritiyam sarva bhutastham. The third is the one who is within each and every atom and who is the overseer of every jiva. Tani gyatva. Understanding him, vimuchyate. A person is completely liberated. But he gets which understanding? Brahma, Paramatma or Bhagavan? Paramatma. So that same tattva minus spiritual energy but plus the controller of material and marginal energy, it becomes known as what? Paramatma. Now when that same absolute truth is perceived as the controller of material energy, marginal energy, and which energy? Spiritual energy. That same absolute truth manifests in his complete feature. This time, because he is accepted as the controller of the spiritual energy, therefore the spiritual energy shows his swarup to the sadhak. And through the swarup shakti he is seen in his spiritual form. Therefore, this is the most complete feature of the tattva. And this feature becomes known as what? Bhagavan. I hope you are able to understand. So let's make simple formulae for understanding what is Brahma, what is Paramatma, what is Bhagavan. Actually, all three are tattva. All three are what? Tattva. But tattva minus all energies equal to tattva minus spiritual energy only equal to tattva plus all energies equal to this is the understanding given to us by the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahma iti paramatma iti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Alright, so important question, when we see Bhagavan, very few devotees in this world have seen Bhagavan face to face. One instance of seeing Bhagavan is when Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta ship. And Prabhupada, he got a severe test. And after the severe test, Krishna appeared personally in front of him. So question is, when Krishna is seen, let's say if tomorrow any one of us sees Krishna, let's say Krishna Murli Prabhu, you see Krishna, tomorrow Krishna comes in front of you. Can a material eye perceive Krishna? No. Your eyes or my eyes, for that, they are exactly what? Material or spiritual? How do we know they are material? Because gradually with time they are deteriorating. Yes? So, can we see Krishna with a material eye?
Unless he gives eyes to us.
Unless he gives eyes to us. But when Krishna shows himself, it's not that first Krishna is like changing the eyes or something, Krishna just appears in front. So what exactly happens when the sadhaka sees Krishna? Brahma to he forget about seeing or tasting, because sadhaka had no desire to perceive any Shakti. So Brahma is only Anubhav Vastu. If you ask what is Brahma, they will say a Shabda, a Sparsha, a Rupa, a Gandha, that is how Brahma is described. Then how do you know that you are in contact with Brahma? Is only Anubhav Vastu. Within your heart you will experience Brahma Ananda. What will you experience? Brahma Ananda. And that Brahma Ananda is described to be the highest joy. It is described in Taittiriya Upanishad. Ananda Valli. There is. So what is described as it is the highest joy in the universe. So you will understand that you have experienced Brahma. But when you see Bhagavan face to face, how will material eyes be able to see Bhagavan? That is very important question. Is it possible for an eye made out of material energy? Because the eye is also made out of what? Shakti. You have a Swarup. Swarup is made out of what? Shakti. All Swarup in the world is made out of what? Shakti. Matter is nothing but conversion of energy. Everybody knows this principle of physics. Matter is nothing but transformation of energy. So basically it's nothing but Shakti. So how can something which is basically material energy or made out of matter perceive Bhagavan? It's very important. So in order to perceive Bhagavan, Shri Krishna has to first and foremost give a covering of Swarup Shakti to the eye. And once the eye has a covering of which Shakti? Swarup Shakti, internal potency, only at that time the eye can perceive Bhagavan. Otherwise it is not possible for the eye to perceive Bhagavan. I hope everybody understands this. Yes? So Krishna does not exactly change the eyes. Krishna gives a small covering to the eyes, and that covering is the covering of which Shakti? Swarup Shakti. That is when the sadhaka is able to perceive. Otherwise it is impossible for the sadhaka to perceive. Now there is another verse in the Bhagavatam which proves, because we said Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajyanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Some time ago there was a Shankaracharya, his present Shankaracharya of one of the mutts in India. He saw this verse and he heard this explanation of Shri Jiva Goswami. And then he commented that actually Jiva Goswami has very cleverly given a reverse explanation of what is the actual. I hope you are able to understand. Huh? Jiva Goswami is saying it is increasing order of importance. Okay, so which is tattva with the least order of importance? Brahma. What is tattva with greater order of importance? Paramatma. What is tattva with the highest order of importance? Bhagavan. This is Jiva Goswami's clear. But he says Jiva Goswami has reversed it. Actually, according to the impersonalist, what is the absolute truth with the highest order of importance? Brahma. What is the absolute truth with medium order of importance? And what is the highest truth with the least order of importance? That's all. Do you accept this, Krishna Murli Prabhu? No. But how do we tell him that he is incorrect? It's very important to tell such a person. You know, Jiva Goswami gave a brilliant explanation. How detailed he has explained. And then somebody comes and says, oh no, just flip it around. And that's how the verse should be interpreted. From the highest order of importance to the lowest order of importance. So there should be some other verse in the Bhagavatam. If there is another verse in the Bhagavatam itself, which says that actually the highest is what? Which feature? Bhagavan. Then we can show it directly to this impersonalist and say, now dear sir, now you can't misinterpret Vadanti tat tattva vidas. Would you like to see such a verse? Yes. So there is such a verse in the Bhagavatam which the Shankaracharya did not know about. And we should keep those verses in our heart. Keep the weapons ready, dear devotees. Sooner or later, there is going to be a fight. Keep the weapons ready. So dear devotees, I would like to point out a verse from Srimad-Bhagavatam. This is those of us who have Veda base. Also, this is Canto 5, this is Canto 3, Chapter 32, verse 26. 3:32-26. So, if we can bring up that verse on the screen. Is Dhananjay Prabhu there?
I'll go.
Okay. 3:32-26 is the very important verse that tells us which feature is actually the best feature amongst these three. So I will try to sing this verse. Those of you who have it, please repeat. Those of you who don't have it, hear it and repeat after me. Jnanamatram param brahma Paramatmeshwarah puman Drishyadibhi prithak bhavair Bhagavan eka iyate. 3:32:26 is the verse. Okay. So, Jnana matram param brahma Paramatma Ishwarah puman Drishi adibhi prithak bhavair Bhagavan eka iyate. This verse is very important. Kapil Muni is saying something. What is Kapil Muni saying? Kapil Muni is saying, first he is describing Brahma. What is he describing? Brahma. Brahma is what? Jnana matram. What is Brahma? Jnana matram. Only experiential knowledge. Can you touch Brahma? Please tell me. Can you touch Brahma? No. Can you see Brahma? Can you hear Brahma? Can you taste Brahma? Brahma is only experienced. Jnana matram. Therefore known as Param. You can see on the screen. Jnana matram param Brahma. Second is Paramatma. Can you see in the verse what is mentioned next? Paramatma. Third is Ishwaraha Puman and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. How many varieties of the truth were mentioned in this verse? Three. Okay. So Jnana Matram Param Brahma Paramatma Ishwaraha Puman. Three varieties are mentioned. See what Kapil Muni says. Drishi Adibihi Prithak Bhavair. Because of difference of perception, because of difference of mood. And the last line says, Eka iyate, that one entity is seen differently. But who is that entity is mentioned in last line? Bhagavan Eka iyate. I hope you are able to understand. Jnana matram param brahma Paramatma Ishwaraha puman Drishi adibihi prithak bhavair Bhagavan eka iyate. Actually that is one eka Bhagavan. Iyate appears due to prithak bhavair, due to different moods as three different entities. Param Brahma, Paramatma and Ishwar. Now tell me Krishna Murli Prabhu, which one is greatest? Brahma, Paramatma or Bhagavan? Bhagavan. Says who? Kapil Muni. In the Bhagavatam itself. This is verified by Vyasadeva. Yes, because Vyasadeva included the verse in the Bhagavatam. Now whose explanation is correct? Kapil Muni or Shankaracharya? Obviously Kapil Muni. I hope you are able to understand. So what Jiva Goswami explained there was 100% unadulterated absolute truth. There is no cheating. Kaitav Dharma is rejected in Srimad-Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva was not satisfied after all the Vedas and Upanishads. Do you think those who follow the Upanishads will be satisfied? The compiler himself is not satisfied. The readers will be satisfied? Vyasa was satisfied by which literature? Srimad-Bhagavatam. There is a devotee poet who composed a very sweet commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. His name is Sri Hari Suri. He glorified this. He wrote a very sweet verse about Srimad-Bhagavatam. Why it is important to understand the absolute truth, Tattva, from Srimad-Bhagavatam. His verse is very nice. I memorized this verse. Please hear this verse. अन्याभिः किमुतत्पुराणतरणि श्रेणिभिरारोहणं यातो यासुनधीवरोऽपि लभते पारं भ्रमन्मानसम्. Sri Harishuri says, Anyabhihi kimutatpurantarani. I am on this side of the ocean of material existence. Very bold commentator. I am on this side of the ocean of material existence. And I have to reach which side? The other side. Now I am on this side. I have to reach the other side. Now, in order to cross an ocean, what is required? Boat is required. Tarani, what is required? Boat. So, Anya Bihiki Muttat Purana Tarani. Vyasadeva had created 17 Purana Tarani. What had Vyasadeva created? 17 Purana Tarani. What does Tarani mean? Boat. Vyasadeva had created 17 Purana Tarani, and then he has a hidden message. But these 17 Purana Taranis are actually Purana Taranis. I hope you are able to understand. What is one meaning of Purana? And another meaning of Purana is literature of Vyasadeva. It's played on the very term Purana itself. So Vyasadeva created 17 Purana Taranis, but Vyasadev's Purana Taranis have become which Taranis? Purana Taranis. They become, would you like to climb on Purana Tarani in order to cross the ocean? No. But there is one latest and greatest ship created by Vyasadeva. The newest one, recently painted. Which one is that? Mahatarani. Mahapurana. Would you like to sit comfortably on the great ship Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is newly created and whose captain is Shri Guru himself? Would you not want to cross the ocean on that ship, dear devotees? Therefore, all glories to Srimad-Bhagavatam. So this, dear devotees, is the glory of the Absolute Truth as it is described in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It is very important for us to understand that the first verse of the Bhagavatam is also speaking about this. Janmadyasya yaton vayaditarataschatheshva bhijya swarat. And the verse ends with Satyam Param Dhimahi. It ends with a Vedic word Dhimahi. This word cannot be explained by rules of Sanskrit grammar. Sridhar Swami says Dhimahi means Dhyayema. He gives another term to explain Dhimahi. Dhimahi is Vedic Sanskrit. It occurs in the Gayatri. So there is Gayatri there in the first verse of the Bhagavatam. Satyam Param Dhimahi. We meditate on what? We meditate on the... Did Vyasadeva specify what is the absolute truth in the verse? Janmadyasya yaton vayaditaratascha tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muyyanti yatsure tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargom mrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param. What is the name of that absolute truth? Just Satyam Param? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That is where Vyasadeva first and foremost, in the very beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, because Narad Muni had given pakka instruction, this time, don't miss it. So before Vyasadeva wrote Bhagavatam, before he said we meditate on the absolute truth, first and foremost he wrote what is the absolute truth. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then he says Satyam Param Dhimahi. But that Satyam Param has already been defined in the phrase Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We should understand this. The absolute truth is Bhagavan Vasudeva. He is the absolute truth. And therefore, we should not have any doubts as to what is the essential message of Sri Vyasadeva in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Vadanti tat tattva vidastatvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. So, dear devotees, Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Radha Neelamadav Ji ki Jai. The essential message of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is not that, see, please hear, is not that there is one tattva and that tattva gets three branches, Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. That is not the message. The message is the absolute truth is Bhagavan. I hope you are able to understand what is the absolute truth. Bhagavan, Vasudev is the absolute truth. And it is he who gets understood as Brahma, Paramatma and as Vasudev himself. So this is what is how the diagram should be made. Not that Tattva is the absolute truth and then it gets understood as Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. That is not how the verse is understood. The absolute truth is not Tattva. Actually, it is commonly known as Tattva, but its real name is what? Bhagavan. Vasudev is the actual name of that absolute truth. When this is understood, then we have understood the basics of Bhagavad Tattva. See, such a simple verse, externally it appears. But if somebody asks us what is Brahma, then we should not get confused. We should immediately say, what is Brahma? Sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Everything here is what? Brahma. But Brahma is ashabda, asparsha, arupa. It has no form, no taste, no perception. Anubhav matra vastu. It is only a thing to be experienced by the heart of the practitioner who has no desire to perceive any energy of Tattva. What is Paramatma? Maya Shakti Prachura. In him, the control of Maya Shakti is the most important function. And Chit Shakti Alpa. There are some spiritual potencies also he controls. That he becomes known as Paramatma. And Sarva Shakti Maya, basically. That becomes known as what? Bhagavan. That is the difference between Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Are they three absolute truths? No. How many? So why three? Because of difference in what? Perception of the perceivers. Alright? So with this, dear devotees, although it was a difficult and terse explanation, but I hope my explanation made some sense. I would like to thank all of you for kindly being present here today. We'll give some more time today to questions and answers. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. One question I have, Prabhuji, because you mentioned Tattvamasi, because it's mostly quoted by the impersonalist, saying that truth is you. I wanted to hear your comment on that.
You want to hear my comment? On Tattvamasi? Yes, why not? I will speak. So, let's first understand, before understanding what is Tattvamasi, let us understand how many, because I love grammar. There is one thing which I love very much, and that is grammar. And in grammar, if we understand what is Tattva, then it will be very easy to understand. So, dear devotees, where does the statement Tattvamasi occur? The statement Tattvamasi occurs in Chandogya Upanishad 6.8.7. Where does it occur? In Chandogya Upanishad. And Tattvamasi is not a single, separate sentence. There is one sentence at the end of which there is Tattvamasi. So I will quote the entire phrase. The phrase is Sa Atma Tattvamasi. Okay, please repeat after me. Sa Atma Tattvamasi. Alright, this is what it is. Now, those who are from the Advaitavad school of thought, from Sri Adi Shankaracharya school. See, Adi Shankaracharya, very respectable. We give all respect to Sri Adi Shankaracharya. But we don't agree with the philosophy. That is how people who are in Vedic culture behave. We have all respect for Sri Adi Shankaracharya. His personal character, his knowledge is impeccable. We don't say anything against the personal character. But the teachings that he has given, we do not agree with. Okay? So, respect for the personal character. When we see an impersonalist, or what we call an Advaitavadi, or what we call a Mayavadi, should we deride his character, or should we say we disagree with your philosophy? What should we do? Disagree with the philosophy. We should understand this thing. So we have no enmity against the personal character of any. First, and before I explain this, I would like to say this, because sometimes it is perceived that those who are Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they hate impersonalists. I hope you are able to know. So that is not the case. We don't hate anybody. Vaishnava is not supposed to hate. Adveshta sarva bhutanam is characteristic of a Vaishnava mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So that he is not envious of any living entity. So we don't hate anybody, but we disagree with the philosophy that is taught. So Sri Adi Shankaracharya, when he saw this statement, Sa Atma Tattvamasi. So Tattvam Asi. Tat means that. Tvam means what? You. Asi is a verb. Are. That you are. Literal translation. That you are. Means you are directly Brahma. Actually. Who are you directly? Brahma. That is his interpretation. I am giving first, we should understand what is Sri Adi Shankaracharya's interpretation. You are directly that Brahma. Which means there is no difference between you and Brahma. This is Adi Shankaracharya's interpretation. Which means, but you are Jivatma and Brahma is not Jivatma. Which means, actually you are not Jivatma. It is illusion that you are Jivatma. Actually you are Brahma. When you understand, then you merge with, your identity merges with Brahma, then it will be clear that actually you are Tattvamasi, you are Brahma. I hope this is the philosophy of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. I am just a rough representation of that philosophy. Now comes Sri Madhvacharya. And Sri Madhvacharya is known as the personality who did chikitsa, surgical operation on all this. So Sri Madhvacharya says, see the sentence first. What was the sentence? Please hear carefully. Sa Atma. Please repeat.
Sa Atma
Tattvamasi.
Tattvamasi.
Hear carefully. Sa Atma Tattvamasi. Atma Tattvamasi. Atma Tattvamasi. Atma hidden Atattvam Asi. I hope you are able to understand. This is how the first line of thought of Sri Madhvacharya. It is not Atma plus Tattvam Asi. It is what? Atma plus Atattvam Asi. Not that you are. Pura grammar mein it is justified. Because Atma plus Tat also becomes Atma Tat, and Atma plus Atat also becomes what? Atma Tat. A becomes silent. So Sri Madhvacharya's first interpretation is what? Atatvamasi. This is how it should be. The followers of Adi Shankaracharya school become infuriated sometimes when they hear this. Because you know what they say? They say you are using grammatical jugglery in order to pervert the meaning of the Shruti. I hope you are able to understand. This is nothing but grammatical jugglery. The Shruti says Tattvamasi. Just because there was an A before it. So you took one silent A out of it and then put it with Tat and you said Atattvam-asi. Does it seem justified, Krishna Murari Prabhu? Because Madhvacharya's philosophy is Bheda. Atat. He will directly say. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't say Atat. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will say Achintya Bheda Bhed is there. Basically Bhed is also there, Abheda is also there. But Madhvacharya's philosophy is what? Absolute, pura beech mein axe dal ke, you know, Atat, split both of them, Atatvamasi. So this is Madhvacharya's philosophy. So first line that Madhvacharya puts is Atatvamasi. Now the followers of Adi Shankaracharya become infuriated and they say this is incorrect. Prabhuji, is it correct to interpret like this, Atatvamasi? Tell me yes or no. Huh? No, Prabhuji, I am asking you.
Me, Prabhuji.
No?
Not without knowledge, I don't think I am.
Okay. So, Sri Madhvacharya says, don't worry. Let's take your reading only. Tattvamasi. What is the reading that you accept? Tattvamasi. Without the silent a. So, what is Tat? What does Tat mean? That. Tat is Sarva Vibhaktika. Sarva Vibhaktika means it can take all declensions of Sanskrit grammar. Now, those of us who have not might have learnt in school karta, karma, karan, sampradan, apadan, sambandha, adhikaran, sambodhan. Those of us who have not heard this, it means that a particular noun or a particular pronoun can become an agent of any activity. So, tat tvam asi means it can become tat accusative, which means of him you are. Tat means of him you are. It can mean tena, along with him you are. It can mean tasmai, for him you are. It can mean tasmat, from him you have come, tvamasi. It can mean tasya, of him you are a relative, of a part and parcel. It can mean tasmin, on him you are dependent. So tat is sarva vibhaktik, but you need to understand little grammar. हिंदी में किसी ने पढ़ा होगा कर्ता ने कर्म को करण से संप्रदान के लिए अपादान से संबंध काके की अधिकरण में पर, है ना. सो पुट ऑल द विभक्तिज ऑन तत्. उससे तुम हो, उसके तुम हो. I hope you are able to understand. So this is how he interprets tattvam. You can have many interpretations of tattvam asi in this way. So this is the interpretation of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So how do we interpret tattvam asi? Tasya tvam asi. What is our interpretation? Tasya tvam asi. Uske tum ho. I hope it is understood. So, and even if you take the direct meaning without attaching any vibhakti, tat, that you are, basically. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that you are, but only in quality. I hope you are able to understand. That you are, but only in quality, not in identity. Only in quality. Because if you become one in identity, then Shruti, the Vedic statements, will become false. What are Vedic statements? Which Vedic statement will become false if Jiva merges into Brahman? Tell me. That's a Puran statement. Huh? हाँ, नित्यो नित्यानाम चेतनस चेतनानाम एको bahunam यो vidadhati kaman. Still, where does it say that this statement will be falsified? Please understand. There are statements in Shastra. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित. और ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः. Jivas are my which amshas? Sanatan amsha. Which adjective is applicable to jiva? Sanatan, which means the jiva na jayate mriyate. It was never